Hello, everyone. Something a little bit different today. Guess what?
What?
We have a service called bigsandwich.co where we do a bonus.
I know that.
I know you know, but other people don't know this, Mason, watching
That's
this
a good point,
video.
actually.
So basically how it works is every Monday we put up a brand new podcast. We do a different podcast every week. We do a time capsule one where we look at a particular year in pop culture. We do a clickbait article one where you drive me insane with various horrible clickbait.
Hell yeah.
We do a movie commentary. And one of the ones that we do also is a comic book club.
That's right.
So what we've done today, we've packaged this into a video with visuals to give you a
God.
sense of what the podcast is like if you do want to sign up.
It's classy.
That's right.
That's why it's the Comic Book Club.
So if you do want to check out any of those, they'll be linked below. But here's a sample of what that is like.
It'll be like reading the comic book itself. But for copyright purposes, it's nothing like that because we don't want to get into trouble.
No, I do want it to get in trouble,
Oh my
Mason.
God.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Leave a like. I'm the bad boy of whatever the fuck we do.
Folks, welcome once again to another episode of the Big Sandwich Classic Comic Book Club, the classiest comic book discussion podcast.
Cheers. So what are we talking about this week?
This week, we're talking about one of your recommends.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars, Darth Vader in the Ghost Prison. Written by Hayden Blackman, penciled by Augustin Alessio.
That's right. People might know the name Hayden Blackman from one of the creative...
Hayden Christensen.
That's right.
Are they brothers?
Not related. You've made that joke in a separate video. I think...
Hundreds of times.
It might even be in a video we made where we talked about this actual comic.
Huh.
Yeah. By Hayden Blackman, who again wrote The Force Unleashed.
Is he related to Hayden Christensen?
Yes.
Okay.
They're brothers.
Well, never let it be said that I'm not a hack because I am.
But he was the creative force and I think the game director of also the first Force Unleashed game.
Oh.
The story behind that game in particular, I really liked. The second one he left, there was creative differences and there was a big push to kind of get the game finished in time. And
he
didn't come
probably
out
would
so
have been
well.
like, if you don't accede to my demands, I quit. And they'd be like, well, I mean, we're just gonna have this guy fight different robots in this one. So you've kind of done all your work ahead of time, and we don't need you anymore. So quit if you like.
Essentially, yeah. So
This is Dark Horse Comics. This is
It is.
pre-acquisition by
just
Disney.
prior.
Here's the publisher's summary, James.
I'm ready.
A traitorous uprising against the fledgling Galactic Empire leaves Emperor Palpatine close to death. Saving the Emperor and the Empire appears to be a lost cause unless Vader can uncover the secrets of the Jedi Council and locate the mysterious ghost prison.
Absolutely.
First of all, I love the title.
Totally. I know you love the way that some of the Star Wars movies are titled because they're big and over the top and ridiculous.
Yeah,
Even like Attack of the Clones, you're like, yeah, that sounds like a serial from,
Yeah.
the 50s or whatever where, you just jump halfway into something.
Yeah, and a lot of people would go in being like, what's a clone?
What is a clone?
Is that a foreigner of some kind? In a way
way.
it is, yeah. Yeah.
So this is, I think, my favorite Star Wars comic.
Interesting.
It's
okay.
certainly up there. It's also a really beautiful looking book.
I agree, yeah.
And not to throw shade on a lot of the new Star Wars comics, which
They're
also...
crap.
No, they're not.
They're all crap.
A lot of them are very
You've
good.
confided to me you think they're
No,
all crap.
I don't. I
Wow.
think the new
You
Darth...
say Lando, more like crappo.
No, that's one of the best. That's a really good one.
That's what you say.
All the new Darth Vader comics are really good, but there's something about the art style in this. There is like a Ralph McQuarrie-esque kind of airbrushing. I don't know anything about art, but this book, it's really... It feels like a very deliberate work of art and time-intense kind of process.
And you know what's interesting
like
about
this?
this world as well? They've done what I consider to be the impossible, which is they've taken Coruscant, the city planet,
Yeah.
and they've actually made it look like people live in it. Like there's ads and there's
People
and
more than 4 people.
right? Whereas, like, even in the Star Wars movies, especially the prequels, where it's just like, oh, you live in a world that's just stainless steel. Every street is just a stainless steel street with nothing in it. What do people do?
Yeah.
How do they live? How do they spend their downtime? I guess they just sit in a room with a cushion.
Exactly.
They sit in a big cushion and they meditate.
Yeah.
Everybody on this planet.
Even when you get, for example, like Attack of the Clones when they go to a bar.
Yep.
It just feels like extras standing around in a bar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I think is great about this is, so it's set, for those who haven't read it, and spoilers.
It's set in 19 BBY.
That's right.
Which we all know.
I think it's like, 6 to 12 months after Anakin Skywalker makes the turn to Darth Vader.
Oh, great Jedi purge.
That's right. And it's the very early days of the Empire, and they're just kind of establishing themselves as this like force in the universe. And the lead character of this, despite being in the title role, is not Darth Vader. It's Tom, though it's spelled in a very Star Warsy way.
Yes.
It's T-O-H-M.
Thom.
Thom.
I said a thom the whole way through.
Thom's
so.
fine too. You're probably
Yeah.
right. But so what's interesting about this character is when he was a child, he had this horrific event happen to him that wiped out his whole family and took off one of his arms, scarred half of his face. And so you see throughout this comic book, he's this indoctrinated Imperial soldier, and he's just looking for a place to belong. And you do get the sense that anybody who kind of gave him guidance or respect or kind of acknowledged him, that's the direction that he would turn.
Oh, yeah, right. It was just luck that the Imperials got to him first, yeah.
All of his friends, including his like commanding officer, they staged this coup against the Emperor.
Yeah, this headmaster is sick. This Imperial training headmaster is sick of his cadets graduating and then being sent off to be killed in this war. So he's like, I'm going to stage a coup against the Emperor. And this year's entire graduating class is in on it, except for you.
Yeah.
Because you're too loyal and creepy.
Well, and I think one of the reasons also was because he stands out too much. It comes down to also the way that he looks. And the thing about this guy is like, he wants to be special, but not for those reasons.
Yeah.
There's the moment where you see like, he attaches himself to Darth Vader and just trying to use the Force because he's kind of like, well, maybe this can be my thing. You can see he's just like, I'll do whatever. Like, I'll do whatever it takes to be accepted, to be part of a bigger thing. I think he would have been part of this coup if they had have asked him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Do you think there should have been a montage where he tried to decide what kind of guy he was? Like, I'll be a hat guy.
Probably, yeah. So the guy that you mentioned, the who starts the insurrection, Gentris, I believe his name is, his power grab is really understandable. It's not just like, I want unlimited power and I want to be the new emperor. He's like...
So you're saying his motivations are better than the actual emperor in all other forms of recorded Star Wars media, where he's just like, I want unlimited power.
Yeah, like...
Really paints the rest of the Star Wars universe in a bad light, doesn't it?
It really does, because there's a moment where, you know, he's talking about saving lives, and he's looking over a giant crematorium where it's just Imperial soldiers by the hundreds just being thrown into this thing. And he's like, I trained a lot of these people.
I mean, often what happens is with most Star Wars expanded media is like, we'll see behind the curtain. Like, you think these guys are just like cannon fodder, but we'll see what their lives are like. Do you think that takes away from the larger Star Wars universe, which is just like good guys, bad guys, pew, 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 pew?
Not at all. I think it adds like some... maybe not much needed, but some much needed nuance to some of the stories.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times, you know, characters for me are more interesting if they've got like a backstory and a motivation. It's not just unlimited power and I'm shooting lightning at 1,000,000 starships or whatever. It's like, who gives a shit, you know? Well,
then speaking of characters, what did you think of all the additional characters? Because we get... So here's the thing about this is that I went into this being like, oh, we're going to go to a ghost prison. I thought there was less ghost prison than there was promised.
And very few ghosts.
0 ghosts.
It's more like remnants of the past, shadows of like...
Yuck, metaphor.
Gross.
Yucky.
If they called it Darth Vader and the metaphor of things that happened to him.
Yeah. Look, I enjoyed this, but I think, to me, this is a 5-issue limited series. I think there was more than 5 issues worth of story in this and concepts.
Yeah.
And I think in Insurrection from an Imperial cadet or training ground, I think that's really interesting. And I think the idea that the Jedi set up a secret prison where they would send all the traitors and political enemies and whatever,
and people
deal
who are
with
too powerful to
and deal with them later.
Yeah.
I think that's also very interesting. But I think they could have been 2 separate series. And I think the Ghost Prison is just sort of a place to go, and then they get some additional soldiers who are in it for a bit, and then it's kind of over.
See, that's what I like about it, though, that it kind of moves at a clip like a movie would, and it jams like
Star Wars
into
movie?
it. Yeah, like a Star Wars movie, because...
James, some of those Star Wars movies did not move along with a clip.
No, you're right. The best Star Wars movies, actually, the ones that I like move along in a clip and they make a lot of sense also. And
Star Wars fan films.
Yeah, some of them, yeah.
The Star Wars movie that I like, the one where Obi-Wan and Darth Vader fight, but it's like sword fighting guys and it's real fast.
Super fast.
That's the one I like.
But you mentioned all these characters that have been put away, which I think is also interesting because Anakin Skywalker, he asked at the time, what are you doing with these guys?
Is that in the movies?
No.
Okay, right.
He's like, I'm capturing all these people. I send them to you, and then you say, don't worry about it.
Right.
What am I doing?
I'm worried about it. I'm a little bit worried.
It's a very valid question. I think it
though?
fleshes out his character more. But what I like about all those characters that they hint at and you see, they've all got stories that, for me, is like, oh, I'll read a comic about just that guy.
Right.
I've got a list here. So there was a guy who was a Dark Jedi who stole Force children for Dooku.
Huh. What's he doing with them? Eating them?
He might be eating them.
Maybe he's eating them. Maybe he's eating them,
yeah. There was a woman who was maybe Dooku's girlfriend, but she's dead, so we'll just never know.
Huh.
There's one with a big tongue. There's Sean.
Big tongue boy.
Big tongue boy. There's Sean Volta, who hid from the Jedi.
Has he got the robot eyes?
No, that's another guy who helps out on the Imperial side. No, who was hidden from the Jedi as a child because their parents wanted them to have a normal life because they didn't want them snatched away by weird monks.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. So what I think is interesting about this book, and you mentioned one just then, the dude with the robot eyes and arms, this book is about broken toys.
Yeah, right.
Including Darth Vader himself. They're all misfits in the galaxy who are looking for a higher purpose.
They're the raggy dolls of Star Wars,
That's
James.
what I'm saying. They are the raggy dolls. But like, if you look at Darth Vader himself, the Emperor gets poisoned, and the idea is to then take them to the ghost prison because they've got all these facilities that can heal him.
Yeah.
He could kill him. But he doesn't want that because he doesn't have direction.
Yeah.
Without somebody telling him what to do, he doesn't know what to do.
That's true,
Like, he's an enforcer. He's not a politician.
Yeah.
He's not a guy who wants to shoot lightning into the sky and make 1 million starships and 1 million Death Stars. He's just like, I want to cut people up because I'm mad.
Right, yeah.
You know? I think that's fascinating. But the way that they use them in battle is just like cannon fodder. It's like, you're going to do this for the greater good of the Empire. But they don't care. Nobody cares about anybody in this book.
Yeah. Or in this universe, or any of the flora or fauna, or any of the planets, or anything really. It's sort of like when you, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but like when you watch a TV series or a movie where like the hero goes to kill a goon, and then you see a flashback of the goon's whole life.
Yes.
And then they just get their throat
Austin
cut.
Powers with the steamroller. How about that?
Probably happens, yeah. Okay, yeah.
And I think also it paints the Jedi in a light that we sort of see in the prequels, but has been fleshed out in other stories, I think, better, where that they're not great. And when, you get a look at the Jedi at the council and they're just bickering about bureaucracy and what to do with these prisoners of war, it's like, yeah, they're not good, are they?
When you think of the true fans of Star Wars, James, and you know what I'm talking about, the true fans.
Sure, yeah.
What do you think they think the Jedi are about?
I think most people understand that the era of the prequels and leading up to is that they're not supposed to be good. They're ineffectual and their hubris is out of control, and they're blinded by political ideologies and this sense of right that has been twisted by being insular and all wearing the same clothes and only listening to themselves. And I think you had a really interesting point about the Jedi at some point.
This sounds good.
Where
I'm excited to hear whatever I said.
The way they should have set it up and the way that you always saw it was that they're like different pockets of fighting forces and monks and like units throughout the galaxy. They're not just 10,000 people in a temple and then they send them out to like different regions to settle trade disputes. They should be living among people and getting to know it.
That is a good point that I said,
You
probably.
said that.
Are you sure it was me and not like somebody on a Star Wars channel on YouTube?
No, I'm pretty sure it was you, but I think this book again highlights that as well, that idea that they've completely lost their way.
Why is it that the Sith are so difficult to defeat when there's literally only 2 of them?
Because they're hiding and they skulk, and sometimes they have 1 million starships and they're shooting lightning.
That's a good point, actually. I forgot about the 1 million starships. Yeah, okay, good point. Yeah. I've always thought that was a dumb idea, and I understand it's because there was too much backstabbing and there was too much betrayal. Here's the thing. They are bad guys, so there's nothing stopping them from breaking the rules, is there?
No, and some of them
A guy should just show up and just be like, I'm a Sith Lord too. Yeah, but you can't stop me.
Yeah, but like they find loopholes. Like Darth Vader has the Inquisitors. Dooku had a Asajj Ventress.
And his girlfriend.
And his girlfriend, apparently. And so they find ways around it because, they're not honest.
I know she's in the book, but I imagine Dooku's girlfriend is just Christopher Lee in a wig. Doing the bewildered face.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of my faves. But I think it ends well with like the final battle where
all's well that ends well.
In
the Empire.
You do also get a sense in this, sort of like the movie Valkyrie. You're like, maybe they're gonna win. Maybe the insurrection is going to work, and they're gonna topple the Empire, knowing very well that they do not.
That's right.
But the moment where they all step off the ship, with Tarkin, and even though, they have, these elite fighting forces and all these kinds of things and these amazing Imperial cadets, they're not a match for an island of broken toys.
The Raggy Dolls.
The Raggy Dolls, essentially.
All of whom are lunatics that were too dangerous to leave out in galactic society.
Yeah, exactly. Because, at the end, despite everything, they just explode the ship because they're like, well, we can't really have these guys running about, can we?
Because these prisoners make a deal with Vader and Thom and the third guy, Robot Eyes. They make a deal. They're like, we'll help you with this, and then in exchange, we'll go to the outer reaches of space, and then we won't bother you, and you don't bother us. And they're like, agreed, strong, good deal.
Yeah.
And then as they leave, it's revealed that Thom has in fact sabotaged their ship and it explodes. And Robot Eyes is like, how dare you? I made a deal's a deal kind of thing. But then Thom's like, nah, I'm a real Imperial. That's what we do, baby.
And what's great,
I've found my thing. It's blowing up people in ships. Yeah.
Finally. What's fascinating as well, because he gets killed because of a passing comment from the Emperor, where he's like, you know what, this guy's pretty good. I think he'd make a pretty good like successor one day if need be. And Vader's like, absolutely not. And just kills him just on a whim. Even the smallest threat. Like, this guy's not a threat to you. He's never going to try and like murder you to take your place. He's just probably going to rise through the ranks and he'll just target it for the rest of his life. But even then, that passing comment, he's so bitter and jealous and broken. He's just like I think also the Emperor said it on purpose, knowing that it would trigger Darth Vader to do this. Triggered much?
Oh my God.
Snowflake.
Oh, Darth Snowflake.
But just one of the last things I want to say is I think one of the things this does well is the portrayal of Darth Vader. There's one thing I think maybe it doesn't do well. There's a panel where he has a lightsaber well above his head. Apparently he can't do that.
I can't lift his arms.
Can't lift his arms above shoulder height. Whatever. It's a great pose and I love it. I don't really care. But the idea that his personality is shown through actions, not like in a monologue or like talking to himself or having big long conversations with people. It's like
or a robot buddy or something.
Or a robot buddy or something, which sometimes he does have, to be fair. But for example, when he gets to, the ghost prison and there's like one of the few surviving Jedi there who was like, I thought you guys had forgotten about me. And his response is just to kill her instantly and go, hey, guess what? You've been forgotten. You don't get much from him at all. But what you do get, it fits in with my perception of, at least, of how to do this character well in film and in comics and in books.
In a way, actions speak louder than words.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And that's why Darth Vader and the metaphorical ghost prison, because they're not really ghosts.
Not really ghosts.
Is a very good comic that I like. And if you haven't read it, Mason.
I've read it. If
you haven't though, Mason.
Oh, okay, sure.
If you pretended to read it, as we do at a book club often. We just pretend. We don't read these, do we?
That's right. We're reading this off Wikipedia. We've got a little earpiece in. And we're watching a comic pop video about this, and I
love comic pop.
We're just saying the words that they're saying 5 seconds afterwards.
We're just going along with it.
Yeah. Anyway, I've been Sal from Comic Pop,
and I've been Ethan from Comic Pop.
And is there a third guy?
Yes, there's Tiffany and there's Ben.
Well, we've both been Tiffany and Ben.
That's right, exactly.
And Sal and the other guy.
All of them together. Yeah. You should check out that channel if you haven't. But yeah, look, if they could fix the arm above the shoulder, this would be a perfect comic for me.
Well, I mean, there's no shortage of meddling in the Lucasfilm world, so maybe they'll go back and they'll change it. There'll be a fixed arm version.
And the thing is as well, like, I don't need this to be canon. It like exists as is. I love it as a contained story. Doesn't bother me.
But it is canon, right?
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not anymore.
Not
of course it's not, because it's pre-Lucasfilm purge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I don't think it'll ever happen. But see a mini series along these lines, or a movie or whatever.
I mean, The Mandalorian has been expanded to like 6 more series, so they could very well.
They go, this is an extension of The Mandalorian. I mean, it takes place like 25 years prior, but I don't know. Boba Fett's in it also, I guess. So it's connected. I don't know. We don't know. But what do people want us to watch, read next? Comic books. We read these.
Yeah, that's
I was joking before. We don't just read the Wikipedias.
We read the whole thing.
Especially when they're not Star Wars comics.
We read the whole thing when it's short.
That's right. Thanks for watching that. We appreciate it. Again, bigsandwich.co if you want to sign up. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you should. I think I'm having a great time reviewing these comic books, because sometimes it's a classic. Yeah. Sometimes it's a pile of crap.
It is a pile, a literal pile of not literal. Yeah. It's a comic book that we think is a big pile of crap. Anyways, we're going to do a different thing. So are you probably. Yeah. So are you. Goodbye.